Mars, circa 2075. Parker, a young miner who had been working in the colony for 6 months, was getting close to his breaking point. He couldn't believe how stupid he had been. Yeah, come to Mars, help make a new world. He wondered how he could have believed all the lies. He remembered laughing at that stuff with his friends. They'd drive up to Chicago and do the big city. They could always tell they were in the wrong parts of town when they started seeing prop balloons floating over the streets, blaring out corporate bullshit. They would hear incredible lies from the Army, Merc Corps, Ultor, all the big organizations that wanted to put warm bodies in bad places. Parker would often wonder who would buy into all the propaganda and sign up without a second thought. Now he knew all too well. Parker always thought he was different, better than most. His mother and father, Dr. and Dr. Parker, had his life all scoped out. Private schools, tutors, prep school, Ivy League for undergrad, then grad school, and on to a glittering career in academia. They had him running their little maze. Lots of twists and turns, but only one way it could possibly end up. Parker couldn't take it anymore. Never being able to separate what he really wanted from what they trained him to want. Not knowing where he began and they ended. No achievement was praiseworthy. When the acceptance letter from Harvard came, they took it like no big deal, just an expected turn in the maze. Parker went nuts. He ripped up the letter and stormed out of the house, hardly able to see straight. He wanted to do something that wasn't another item to mark off on their progress chart. Signing up for Ultor's mining operations on Mars sure fit that bill. Parker drove down into the city, saw one of Ultor's recruiting offices, and it just clicked. He knew what he had to do. It was if Parker's brain was running on autopilot. He walked into the office and it all went so smooth and fast. The whole place was designed like a manor house. Thick, neutral carpeting, bland, gently curving walls, soft lighting, and a friendly helper to lead him through the whole process. Parker was still in a daze when they took him to the shuttle and strapped him in. There were dozens of other new recruits in the passenger compartment as well. After the shuttle took off for Mars, he finally snapped out of it. When freefall hit, Parker unbuckled his seat belt and dodged floating globules of vomit. Landing was another bad omen. Strapped into their seats, watching the puke blobs float around, wondering how many of them were going to land on them, and hoping they would hit the other people instead. The sounds and smells of planetfall were beyond description. It was a good introduction to life in the mines. They were soon herded out of the ship and into the new arrival processing area. Ultor showed them their place in the food chain right away. They were shoved into a metal chamber, told to strip, and then fire hosed from sprayers in the walls and ceiling. People flocked all over the floor. Once they were thoroughly soaked, stunned, and disinfected, they were issued uniforms. Parker's didn't fit, no one's did. Someone tried to return the uniform and get a different size. They were beaten by security guards and dragged away to the infirmary. The rest of them just huddled a little smaller and went where they told them to go. The barracks were a nightmare. Narrow bunks were stacked in dank rooms, trash was on the floors, graffiti covered the walls, every horror story that Parker had ever heard of worker barracks had come to life. It turned out that everyone shared a bunk with another miner. One would sleep while the other would work. It was pretty gross, but Parker got used to it soon enough. But he didn't even want to think about the rusted urinals and dirt-covered communal showers. Drug use spreaded like mold in the barracks. It was hard not to give up in a place like that. Tossing in the towel and paying for a few hours of oblivion really appealed to some. But giving up wasn't for Parker. Lots of the people who arrived there with him were already half brain dead. Ultor had to know about it, maybe they even got a cut. Zombied out workers didn't complain as much, so he could see Ultor having a hand in it. The only good thing about the work was that it got Parker out of the barracks. The enviro suits were hot as hell to spend 8-hour shifts in. To make it extra nice, 3 workers shared each suit, 1 per shift. The suit was sweaty, hot, and smelly when they climbed into it, and it was worse when they climbed out. Once Parker was down in the mines, it was pure grunt work. Smashing rock out of walls, trying to follow a vein of noachite, his faceplate would fog up from the humidity inside his enviro suit, and the stupid maintenance bots rammed into him when they grabbed chunks of ore. He was surprised that more miners didn't go berserk during their shifts. Parker didn't know why Ultor had human miners doing all the work. He knew it would be cheaper to have bots do it, and they certainly had enough bots. He asked around, but no one knew. Most didn't want to think about it, maybe figuring they'd be out of jobs if Ultor decided to use bots. Or maybe they were just too zoned out or discouraged to care. There was something soul-draining about doing a job that didn't seem important. There was a cancer there, eating away at them, hollowing them out from the inside. To Parker, it seemed like everything that could go wrong around there did. Everyone was at the breaking point. Fights were erupting all the time. A miner got knifed in the barracks. The argument started over nothing, escalated into shouting and pushing, a blade came out, and then the miner bled to death right on the floor. The guards didn't even investigate. It seemed to be happening a lot. The miners were scared and angry. It wasn't just the fights or the work or the living conditions. Something else was happening to them, beating them down. Miners were getting sick. Not flu sick, but something much worse. Every day, dozens of miners collapsed, in the mines and in the barracks, without warning. One minute they were fine, and the next they were on the ground, writhing in pain, or sometimes unconscious even before they hit the floor. And there was something wrong with their faces too. They seemed puffy or stretched. Some said that they'd seen sick miners whose faces were bulging or pulsating. People called it the plague. Everyone was on the verge of panic. Ultor denied everything and claimed there was no problem. First they said that it was just a stress response on the part of weaker individuals. When everyone got done laughing and then screaming about that one, they came up with a new rationale. They then claimed that it was a Martian virus, infecting miners by some unknown means. There were riots in a few of the barracks after hearing that. Ultor claimed they were doing everything they could to combat the virus. The doctors and technicians were all over the barracks and even in some of the mines, giving everyone shots and pills. They said that their efforts were all that was keeping the virus from killing a lot more. Lately, there had been pamphlets slapped up on the barracks and cafeteria walls. They were calling for miners to go on strike against Ultor, to refuse to work. Some of the flyers even urged miners to attack the guards, to get back at them for all the years of mistreatment. No one knew who wrote them. The pamphlets were signed EOS. Some said it was the name of a group, some said it was the name of a woman who was trying to stir up the miners. The security guards tore down the pamphlets as soon as they saw them, but the damage had already been done. Dozens of miners had seen them. In a few hours, hundreds of miners were talking about the latest pamphlet. People were grumbling, glaring at guards, and openly muttering about a strike or worse. It got uglier every day. Parker didn't know what to think or do. But he was ready to fight if he needed to. He just wanted to get out of there alive somehow. Harvard began to sound better all the time.